Hey, this is Jamie at Useful Knowledge. So I have a brand new pickled jalapeno recipe for you. So I was doing some remote work in the high desert of California, and a friend of mine that lives out there named Chris brought in some pickled jalapenos, and oh my, what a recipe. Okay, they're really sweet on the front end, and then the heat comes in. And he also threw in some peppercorns. So I started calling this sweet fire pickled jalapenos. And Chris has agreed for me to share the recipe so all of you can try it. So stay tuned and I'm going to show you exactly how to make it. Okay, first thing I did is I went and picked about 60 jalapenos out of my garden, and then I washed them. We're going to make about 6 8-ounce jelly jars of this sweet fire pickled jalapenos. Now, if you don't have a garden, just go to your grocery store. You can get them at a grocery store or farmer's market, but you need to get around 60 to make this recipe. Okay, cutting up your jalapenos is really easy. I just cut that nose off, all right, and then just cut about every, say, 1/4 of an inch. Now, if you want them thinner or thicker, cut them however you want them. All right, and just be careful when you get back to the tail. You're gonna throw the nose and tail away, and there it is. We're just going to do all the jalapenos we've got, and then we're going to make the sweet fire pickled jalapenos. Okay, while I'm cutting up these jalapenos, I figured it'd be a good time to tell you and warn you. While you're doing this, please don't touch your face or your eyes, because it's going to burn if you do. Alright, so I'm going to try to go over everything you're going to need. So, like I just showed you, I cut up about 6 to 7 cups of jalapenos. You're going to need 3 cups of water, 3 cups of vinegar. There's a 1.5 cups of sugar. I've got a handful of peppercorns, 1/3 cup of salt, a heaping 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. And you're going to need at least 6 8-ounce jelly jars with bands and lids. Now I go ahead and put an extra one in the oven while I'm warming these up. So go ahead and get 7 ready to go. You're going to need a pot. This is just a 6-quart pot. I've got a canning funnel, and I've got one of these little magnetic doohickeys to actually pull my lids out of the warm water. I've got a ladle, and then I've got just a slotted spoon. All right, and to warm my lids, I've got just a small sauce pot with some water in it. You just want to turn this on to a very low. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Turn that on low. And I'm going to go ahead and add, I'm going to add 7 lids just in case we get a little bit over on what this is going to make. I know it makes 6. Sometimes it makes just a little more. Okay, let's get going. Okay, there's my lids and the water, and like I said, I've got that turned on to the lowest setting I've got, because you just want them warm, you don't want them boiling. Alright, so I'm going to put in my water. I'll put in my vinegar. Go ahead and put in the salt and the sugar and the garlic. Now, the peppercorns, we're going to hold these off. We're going to place them in the jars once we start putting the pickled jalapenos into the actual jar. So we're going to put them in then. So don't put those in right now. We're going to turn this to a high. All right, and then we're going to stir this up, and we're going to let everything start to dissolve. Okay, all of our sugar, our salt, garlic's dissolved, and this is coming up to temperature. We want to get this up to boiling, and then we're going to add our cut up jalapenos. Okay, this is starting to boil. So all I do now is I'm going to add my jalapenos. Now, I get a lot of questions from people about how long to cook them. I think in one of my other pickled jalapeno videos I said 15 minutes. Over the years I've kind of really paid attention to that. What I want these to do is I want them all to change colors and that water to get back up to good and boiling. Alright, so I know some of you like them really crisp. but you really do want them to sit in there long enough to change colors and to get the water back up to boiling. So that's what we're going to do now. We're just going to wait for them to, oh, and there's a tail in there. We're just going to wait for these to get back up to boiling. Okay, I left the temperature on high when I placed the jalapenos into the mixture, and it's been about 9 minutes before they came back up to temperature and started boiling. All right, so they've all changed colors, so we're going to get the jars out of the oven and we're going to can them. I'm going to go ahead and turn that down to a low. Okay, so got my jars out of the oven. They're at 250 degrees. I just turned this off and we're going to start loading these jars up. Now I've got the slotted spoon out because what I want to do is fill up the jars with the actual peppers before I put the juice in. Alright, and you can poke them down a little with a spoon just to make sure you get enough in there. Okay, now I think this is Chris's secret ingredient. Take you a pinch of peppercorns and put in there. You know what, we're going to do a couple of pinches looking at it. Alright, and now we're going to take our ladle and actually finish filling up the jar. And now we're going to do the rest of them. Alright, so we got one done. We got it filled up with peppers, peppercorn, and juice. So now we're just going to do another one. We're going to keep going. Okay, if you're going to can these like I'm going to can them, you want to work quickly. Alright, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm working quickly because you want to get the hot product into the hot jars and get the lids on quickly. Alright, now I use the open kettle method, and that's an old-timey method. You don't have to use the open kettle method. By all means, if you want to water bath them, water bath them. That's fine with me. These are your jalapenos, so however you want to do them. But if you're using the open kettle method, just make sure you work quickly. I try to have everything in the jars in about 5 minutes. And so you can see it's still really, really hot. All right, and we have got our 6th jar. This made 6 jars. Put our couple pinches of peppercorns in there. All right. So you can check if the jars are a little bit too full. You can just take just some of the extra jalapenos out. That'll be fine. Just a little bit too full over here. All right, you want to leave a little headspace. You want to leave about a little bit over 1/4 inch of headspace. All right, we're ready to put the lids on. Okay, before we put the lids on, I always wipe the rim. That's what I'm doing now with a damp paper towel. All right. Now just make sure there's nothing on the rim of that jar that will mess with my seal in any way. Okay, so next we are going to take our lids out of the warm water and I'm going to dry them. That's what I do right there. Now this bothers people a little bit, but it's not a big deal because we are going to actually turn these over in just a minute. And that's an old canner's trick, and you can read them in the books. What that does is the hot product destroys anything that may have gotten on this lid during the canning process. All right, now all we got to do is put the bands on. So probably about 7 minutes from when we turned it off, I've got these filled up. All right. So all I'm going to do now is just tighten the lid, and then I'm going to turn them upside down. We're going to leave them upside down for 5 minutes. Okay, it's been 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and turn these over. I had one just seal on me right there. It happens sometimes. Most of the time they're going to seal in about 30 minutes when they cool down, you'll hear them kind of ping. But that one just sealed when I turned it over. All right, well, we're gonna let them cool down and we'll check them out. Okay, it's really early the next morning and all of my jars are perfectly sealed. You can look for that indentation and you can press the middle. And if it doesn't go down and pop up, it's sealed. All right, there's all the jars. So we hope you gained some useful knowledge on how to make sweet fire pickled jalapenos. And we hope you enjoyed as well as I do. Thanks, Chris.